Hello, Tom Levecki here with a weekly live stream with
Yeah,
Dr.
baby.
Steinbrech and the Male Plastic Surgery YouTube channel. Doc, how you doing today?
We're doing great. Super excited. Great day.
All right, tell us about the cases. Well, I'm getting an Instagram live set up. We're just speaking. We're using
Okay.
pretty cool
Today was
technology.
all consults, all patients. Tomorrow, I'm going to bed early. Gonna get a lot of sleep because I don't know if y'all know our routine, but we get up 5 to start surgery at 6 a.m. So
Wow.
tomorrow's big body banking. We're gonna do abs, plug everything into the shoulders, the chest, the traps. That's what we call our triple play. Looks great. I saw this post-op. Oh, this guy looks so amazing today. Plug it all in his shoulders, next around his shoulders, traps popping, and his chest with beautiful cleavage. Really dug into his abs. He was so happy. He said, and I'm just, this isn't me, I'm just repeating.
Yeah.
He said he came in his third post-op so that he could show Michelangelo. He means the team when he says Michelangelo, his work.
Yeah.
It was really nice, and he looked just fantastic. Tomorrow we're doing that, and then the second case, we're doing a chest lift. There's so many men that come in their 40s, 50s, 60s, have a little bit of gyno, but they also have saggy tissue. So instead of making a big line and just taking out all the gyno, I'll make a tiny little nick, lift up the chest. Sometimes we use sutures to lift it up so we don't have to make a lot of incisions. And I hide a second incision. This is our little magic nobody else does.
Yeah.
Lift it up on the side to do a lateral chest lift.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
So we're having a little problem on Minsta. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a brief one here for our YouTube crowd, and then we'll jump over to Instagram, and we'll do that on mobile. So we're talking a little bit about leg day today. We'll start off on here on YouTube. I did legs today. You have your calves, you got your quads, obviously you got your glute. Give us, and you're starting to see a lot of trends in terms of what guys are coming in for, what they're requesting. So first, let's start with the calves. Calves are probably an area that we do not work out enough, right? So give us a little bit about that, Doc.
Yeah, it's really twofold. A part of it is we do have a tendency to skip leg day. Even now, when there's such an emphasis and such about balance, I still see guys, and believe me, it's always better to have bigger legs and a bigger upper body. That's cool. Like those bicyclists, those Olympic bicyclists have huge butts and huge thighs and calves, and then a smaller upper body. That's always cooler. I promise you, aesthetically. But nothing could be worse than skipping leg day. So, but sometimes Mother Nature skips leg day, right?
Yeah.
So you're running through the line, and she gives this big upper body, a big barrel chest, but just really can even be defined legs, but not a lot of mass. I have that problem. I have I have really defined calves, but just not a lot of mass. So guys will come in and they're maybe trainers, maybe they do work on their legs and really dedicate the time. And they're getting just a lot of definition, but not a lot of mass. So for those people, for the calves, we make an incision. Goes on top of the muscle. And the reason is because there's such little space under there. It's got to go on top of the muscle underneath the fascia. Everybody knows what the fascia is. If you don't, it's that silk stocking that runs on top of the muscle. So it allows the muscles to move against each other when they're sliding around, when you're flexing, extending, and and contracting. For the calf, we make a little incision behind the behind the knee, and then go right. It takes about 6 minutes to put in, and I take my time with it, but it's just a really great procedure. Incision subcutaneous, that's right underneath the skin to the fascia. Open the fascia pocket, put in the triple antibiotic with the betadine, put in the Marcaine to make it nice and numb, and we slide in the implant. So they're just beautiful, and it's instant. It's such a gratifying case. Love them. Could do them all day, honestly.
So
Just love it.
I'm excited I'm a little kind of geeking out right now. So right now we're streaming, and if I'm looking down, I'm not being rude because I'm looking down at the Instagram and at the questions and the waves and that kind of stuff. So we're streaming on Instagram on the Male Plastic Surgery Facebook page, as well as our old kind of OG crew over at the YouTube page. It's kind of
I'm doing a techie channel.
yeah. Typically, people just do one platform or the other, but we pride ourselves in trying to connect with everything. All right, so you get your your calves done. I know there's different options and stuff too. What about can you still how soon can you work out? Can you resume your normal workouts? Walk us through that, Doc.
Yeah, this is one thing. I mean, after we're finished with the surgery, you walk right out. People think that they should have a walker or a wheelchair. You don't really need it because all your muscles still work in your calves. We're just sliding on top, a little bit of swelling on top. We wrap you up. You can walk right out the door because all of your muscles are still intact for your legs. And it's really not as painful as people would think either. Go home, elevate your legs.
Yeah.
Swelling goes down. We have you mold the implant, make sure it stays in place.
Yeah.
I secure the implant in position so it doesn't slide around. And then keep your legs elevated. You can get back to work in a week. And then get back to the gym in 3 to 5 weeks.
Nice.
And the guys love it.
So, how long did it last? Like typically, you get it done. How long did it last typically?
Forever. They're not like breast implant. People think of implants like breast implants where they have to flip them out every 10 years or something like that. We don't even really do that for breast implants anymore because they're such better implants. So these implants, once they're in, they are going to outlast you. I promise you that.
So, okay. So you can work out again 3 to 5 weeks. You walk out of the surgery. You're not getting, carted out of there like a lot of people think. What are the texture? Is that silicone? What's like the texture that's used? How does it feel?
It's texture and it feels like muscle that's sort of half flexed. Because what you want is you don't want something so hard that if somebody felt your leg when you weren't flexing, that it would feel like jelly and gooey. So it's stronger. It's our strongest. We call it durometer. It's our strongest, firmest implant. But you don't want to make it too hard so that when someone feels it down and you're not flexed, it feels like there's a hard edge to it, so you can feel the implant through the skin. You want somewhere in between. So it's semi-solid. And the other nice thing about it, people think that it's like a gooey bag, like a breast implant. It's not. Yeah. It's more like a gummy bear, like the candy. And in fact, if I need to custom carve it to your unique anatomy, I can just trim it and slide it in. And then I can even, looks all right, not perfect. I can slide it back in, trim it a little bit more, put it back in.
Yeah, because it's in that pocket. You kind of see the result essentially when you put it in.
Right there. You see it right on the table.
Okay, so kind of going up on the legs, right? And another area that's underserved.
You want to go up in front or in back?
Now, the other area that's kind of underserved or becoming a bigger trend is quads. And you don't even think of quad implants, but you've done many of them. You're the leader in the space in quad implants. Walk us through a little bit about the machinations for that.
I don't even know if I've seen quad implants on any other websites, honestly. There may be, somebody can point them out to me. But yeah, we've been doing quads for years. They're great. And also they're not as painful as you would think. Again, they pop on top of the muscle. So you squeeze your muscle. They give it a little bit more definition and more bulk. Sometimes guys will be really fit, but they just can't get that kind of mass. The best way to look is look at our website because we have some videos in our Instagram, so you can see how our guys in the videos, they tilt side to side, so you can see when you lean out to the left, you have this beautiful contour on your outer quads. That's your vastus lateralis for you anatomic freaks, and your vastus medialis on the inside. So we usually stage those just like we stage our calves. So somebody might come in maybe from Asia. Let's say you come in and you're going to make a big trip from the Philippines. We'll do a medial calf, medial quad, and then you can put in your glutes, and then come back 6 months later. You can even put in your rectus, the bicep rectus, the femoris rectus on the backside of your legs. Then you come back and do the outer calf, the lateral gastrocnemius, the vastus lateralis, outside quad, and your outside bicep femoris. So bicep femoris, remember, those are the flexors on the back of your leg underneath your butt. So there a lot of people forget about those, but if you really want to have thick legs and you want to bend over, you want to have nice meaty thighs from the back. So people always try and work them when they get on that exercise where they're on their stomach and they bring their legs back. That's to work your rectus femoris biceps. It's actually called the biceps, not just bicep of the leg, but it makes an analogous motion. That's why it's called the bicep of the leg. And we put implants underneath there as well if you need more beefiness.
But like the for the calf implant, the calf implant is smaller than the surface area, but like a quad implant, like does it go around? Is it straight? Does it hug the leg? You know what I mean? It's like a
It
different.
hugs the leg because you want it on the 3/4. You don't want it right in the front. Dun dun dun. It's
Yeah.
two, the inner and the outer. So it's one is on the inner part of the leg, one's on the outer part of the leg.
Oh
That's
wow.
the vastus medialis
Yeah.
and the vastus lateralis. One
Okay,
on
so
the inside, one on the outside. So they're paired. So if you think of the bodybuilders when they, they'll kind of shake it and then suddenly they'll engage it and just like two big pieces of meatloaf just pop out on top of their knee. That's the medialis and the vastus lateralis, the inner quad and the outer quad.
now the most number one visited page on all of your sites. You have 4 sites, maleplatsurgery.com in New York, Chicago, and LA. And the most viewed page and the most questions we get. And by the way, the Instagram guys, you could put your questions in the subject there. I'll get to them on the YouTube. It pops up. So kind of let's talk about glutes. Let's get back to
Glutes. Speaking of, no, this guy is Cirque du Soleil guy. So these are guys that are amazing. And when I say Cirque du Soleil, it could be anything. I don't want to identify anyone. It could be any person that's in any athletic field. He could be a runner or whatever. But this guy is in tip-top shape. You can get a hint of his abs. His abs are ripped. He has no fat. There's no way you could do any kind of Brady lift, any kind of body banking butt lift. It's got to be with an implant. So this goes intramuscular, right in the middle. So if you think about a hamburger that they squeeze the cheese into the center of it, oh, they're so good. Those blue cheese hamburgers that you get at the gourmet restaurants. So what we do is make a little incision, a tiny incision, go through the subcutaneous fat down to the muscle, and then open up very carefully. It's completely dry. There's no bleeding. Get that implant in a small incision. You have to fold it, and we have to yell Taco Tuesday as we're getting that taco inside. Then we close it up in layers, and then they have to stay off the butt for a while so that it heals in, and it's just a really nice result.
So another view, and I know I actually watch your videos. So
now, can you just keep this view because it's very important? Some guys like to keep that lateral. See here on the sides, that lateral hip dip. A lot of people like that. That's more athletic. Like the bodybuilders want that. So other people want to have it really rounded off on the sides. No, we're not talking about a Kardashian hip thing. We're not. That is possible, but most of the dudes want to keep it to a really athletic with posterior projection, like a bodybuilder, and they want to keep that athletic hip dip. But the other people want to round it off a little bit and have it what I call a speedo bubble butt, where it really rounds off on the sides.
Okay, let's take another view.
That's on the side. So you can see that beautiful projection, but it looks natural. It fits in with the rest of the body. Not too little, not too much. And you can still see that sexy hip dip. You can look at this guy's abs. I mean, you can clearly see he's got no fat. But this is, if you look at his abs and you look at the rest of your body, you would expect a little more, junk in the trunk. And he was, if you look at his pre-op, he was really too lean, or his glutes were too lean. So we helped him out. He was really happy. But it fits his anatomy.
Now, this particular patient, Doc, because he's in insane shape, would he not qualify for body banking, or you preferred implants? Walk us through kind of your methodology.
Yeah, a lot of these guys come in. I mean, listen, I'm in New York. New York, we got Chelsea, no fat, right?
Yeah.
You go to Chicago, you have the boys uptown, no fat, no fat in those guys, right? When you go to Halstead, the Halstead boys, no fat. When you go out to Beverly Hills, all the guys in WeHo, no fat. They're all ripped, they're all jacked.
Yeah.
They have no fat. So you need to go to an implant, but you just need to make sure surgeon's got some experience. And those are the guys that we do. Now, sometimes we can do an implant and we can augment on top, do a composite, put a little fat on top. And that's this case we did implants. You can see the extra volume that he got in this particular patient.
Yeah, and the other one had that like kind of concavity, I guess you call it, where this
Yeah.
one didn't. And what I like about how you again, you kind of approach, each guy kind of differently,
Right.
So it's like you can kind of get that indent, if you will, which was desirable. But the same token, a lot of times I hate to say this, but you can see a surgeon, especially like rhinoplasty and certain stuff, and be like, oh, that doctor did that, nose, and they kind of do like a one size fits all. You
Right.
take a really custom approach on your pages. Give us kind of the breakdown of this guy.
So this guy, what we did is we ended up using silicone implants, but he wanted a softer, more sort of rounded bubble butt, speedo bubble butt look. And then the other thing is, if we do liposuction of the flank, everything I always say everything in my job is about not just addition but subtraction and addition. So if I can make your back look more muscular and I can create a concavity, then that convexity, right? That convexity of the glute becomes even more substantial. And we can borrow the fat that we took from the flanks, we can put the implant, and then as a composite in a different layer, we put the fat on top, underneath the skin.
How's he so when you do that like kind of hybrid of an implant, silicone implant, along with some fat, and you're obviously using less fat because you have the implant, does that affect or not affect the absorption rate of the fat?
Doesn't really accept it. Look at this. You can see how much projection we got on this guy. Whoa. It looks great. But I want you to look carefully, and then I'm going to get back to your question. Don't look at just his glutes and the projection of his glutes. Look at the arch of his back. And I did not, you can tell by his belly, I did not tell him to like arch your back. I never do that. I never adjust before and afters. I just let them turn and wherever the camera, because people can pick that out. So I just don't do it. I pick it out on other plastic surgeons, even in talks, national talks. It's embarrassing. So I just would never want anyone to call me out. But what you can see, you can see that we've removed fat from his flanks in those areas, and that's allowed us to have more of a concavity of his flanks that accentuates the convexity of his glutes.
All right, let's take the kind of
Same
rear
thing.
view.
Look at the flanks. We brought the flanks in and we rounded the butt out. He wanted more of a speedo bubble butt. He wanted to be he wanted to be really rounded out in a speedo. So this guy is a little bit different. He didn't want as much of that athletic concavity, that bodybuilder look to him.
Cool. And just one last final view from the.
This is you can really see that bubble that we're talking about, and you can really see almost a shelf. One of my patients, you can put a Diet Coke on, a little Diet Coke on top, but there's that shelf that guys want, and I can even put, if you want to help increase that shelf, I can put a little bit of extra body banking on the superior pole, so it creates more of that shelf. But there's a firewall between what we suck out and what we put in, because you don't want the fat that you put in to seep through to the other side. That defeats the whole purpose. So that firewall is an area that's uninterrupted subcutaneous tissue where the flow of the fat can't just go back up into the back. And then we also put foam panels and really, really secure garments on to make sure wherever we put the fat, it stays in position. But you have to know the anatomy for this.
Okay, so we discussed for those some new people coming on Instagram, for people on replay. We discussed obviously calf implants, quad implants, and then now glute implants, kind of covering leg day and gluteal day. Make sure you don't skip it. Today did leg day, so we don't skip it.
We didn't skip it.
So I guess I would say maybe genetically is the right word, but what's been your experience? Does generally, if you need a calf, you generally have maybe less muscle mass in thighs and butt, or if you have a robust butt, you may not have calves. Like, what part of it's like?
You know what? You would think the general is just small legs all the way up and down. And a lot of times those people, yes, they do skip legs, so they're just naturally very slender. The ectomorphs, so remember there are 3 somatotypes: ectomorphs, tall and skinny; mesomorph, like a Roman Greco wrestler, very muscular, shorter; and the endomorph, sort of a doughy rugby player, right? Those are 3 somatotypes. So the ectomorphs, the basketball players, may just have skinny all the way up through. But I have seen some mesomorphs, the muscular type, the Roman Greco wrestlers, where they have amazing butt, amazing thighs, and they just didn't get enough in the calves. They just got cheated by Mother Nature. Or we have some patients that, and this is entirely other thing, that have maybe they were born with a problem where they don't have full growth. So like clubfoot, things like that, where they have I don't want to say deformity, but they were built in a way that their tissues didn't grow naturally, and so we can help them to just have symmetry, so they just feel like they're on the beach and no one's looking at one of their legs different than the other leg.
So one question that we had, and this could be a shorter one tonight, but we have one question before we wrap up. Is the question that somebody had was, let's say I want the triple play. I want to get my calves, I want to get glutes, and I want quads. Right? Obviously, you lay down on the table for the calves and the glutes, and you got to be on your stomach for quads. Something you can do under one visit, or is that something? Hey, you do 2 at one time and quads at another. Walk us through that, Doc.
Yeah, so usually you don't want to do too many in the same space.
Yeah.
So we're talking the calf being one space, the thigh being the other space, your glutes all the same like that. So I do the same thing for the arms. Just like analogously for the arms, we'll put in the bicep and one of the forearm implants, and then we'll come back and do the tricep and the other forearm implant. I'll do the same thing for the legs. So they'll come in, I'll do the medial calf and the medial quad, and then come back and do the lateral calf and the lateral quad and the glutes. And then we can come back, or in one of those cases, so it's just 2 stages, and do the rectus bicep femoris, the squeezes in the back.
So earlier you shared the cases you had earlier today. I know you're going to go to bed early because you get up very early. I'm actually going to see you tomorrow in the city. What cases you have on deck for tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow, the ones that I talked about earlier. On Friday, we have a really great one where we're doing a triple play with implants. So we're doing biceps, delts, pecs, all through the same incision.
Oh, wow.
I did one of these on Monday, triple play. So incision, slide up underneath the bicep, incision, slide up underneath the delt for the lateral deltoid. Also do some body banking in there to blend it and go in through the pec. When we do the pec, it's in between the pec major and pec minor. Now, this is a critical thing if you want pec implants, because they look very unnatural if you soften up the upper anatomy with a composite with body banking, all right, with putting a layer of some cells on top to blend it. Because if you don't, and listen carefully, then you get the end. You can see the end of an implant, and you can see sort of a dent in here. We call that a subclavicular, underneath the clavicle, subclavicular hollow there. And that is a telltale sign, and you can see them on cruises, you can see them on beaches. You can see them at the pool. And even when photographs, they may look fine, but somebody takes a photograph and the light on the camera wraps right around the implant, almost like an X-ray. So if you're going to have that, you absolutely need to put on. I always say you don't bring out a wedding cake without the icing on. You got to put a little frosting on top to soften it up to give it a perfect result. And it also gives you more central cleavage. So the body banking composite with the pec implants is so important. So that's Friday, and then we have a second torso tech to follow that.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, I have one last question. Did you read all those books behind you?
Almost everyone. Now, about a lot of actually living in New York for a while, a lot of your friends are authors, or they write some book, or they're on television, and then they write a book about that. They're an expert in something. So a lot of these books actually are, not all of them, but a lot of the books are actually from some friends that have written books, book parties.
Hopefully, I don't think you did because you've been busy, but you got to read Unreasonable Hospitality. I gave you that book for
Yes.
for the holiday party. That was by Will Guidara, and they're the guys who took 11 Madison Park, kind of from like a nice restaurant to #1 in the world. And I know like
now I know who left that book. I thought it was one of the cater waiters.
No, it's me.
Oh, Tom, thanks so much.
It's a
Next
good
time,
book.
put your name in it.
Well, you know what it is, and it's got a good time to bring it up. When you work, in your space, right? Obviously, it's medical, it's clinical, but the MPS team takes really great pride in servicing them on the front end, right? You got Joe, you got Abe, you got Josh, you got the whole team, and Ricky, who we should probably do some those guys, get those guys on too, so people can meet.
Absolutely.
But you kind of incorporate a lot of that stuff anyway. But I think it's something you'll enjoy, and we can even talk about that kind of stuff too on the service and maybe get one of the guys on. So Doc, as always, I really appreciate your time. Like I said, guys, we stream from Instagram, so the replay crew on Instagram, drop any comments or questions below or DM us. We're pretty good about answering the questions on the other weekly live stream or DM you back on actually Facebook, which we're streaming on as well. And then lastly, the OG YouTube crowd, which we've been doing for a while. So kind of like mixing a little technology, a little streaming. And Doc, thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. And I just want one shout out to Ricky. It's his birthday. This guy is a sweetheart. Just the nicest guy, nicest soul. I've really come to like him being our patient coordinator. So come in and you'll see him there.
Awesome. Doc, have a great week. And bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.